Thunder Bay firefighters win a big raise. A home on Roslyn Road destroyed by fire. And the royal baby makes his first public appearance. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Trans-Canada Highway near Red Rock has been closed following a major accident. It happened around 3:30 this afternoon. OPP say it involved a transport, 2 pickup trucks, and possibly some cyclists. No other details are available. The highway remains closed at this hour, and OPP say it could be some time before it reopens. An arbitration award handed down for Thunder Bay firefighters will come with a hefty price tag. Local fire and rescue personnel have been without a contract for the past 2 years. The binding decision handed down includes annual wage increases between 2.75% and 3.1% and covers the period from January 2011 until the end of 2014. City Council accepted the 4-year deal last night. City Manager Tim Camiso says it essentially gives firefighters wage parity with police officers. Last time the city and the Firefighters Association went to arbitration, it took 7 years to get a settlement. This latest award will cost the city $6 million over 4 years. Camiso says the city will continue to pressure the province to change the arbitration process. He says the government is holding some groups like teachers to no increases, unlike others.
On the other hand, they've got an arbitration process that's allowing 3.5%, 4% increases going forward that are affecting municipalities, and in the 2 biggest cost areas, police and fire services. So there has to be some consistency, and I think there has to be some recognition, notwithstanding an arbitration process. We just can't continue with seeing those type of increases.
The city has some concerns about the OPP settlement coming in next year that includes a wage increase of more than 8%. Camiso says that will be used as a benchmark in other negotiations. The Firefighters Association could not be reached for comment. The Indian Friendship Centre is looking for help to convert the Port Arthur Prosvita into a new youth centre. Representatives from the IFC were at City Hall last night, hoping Council would kick in 25% of the cost of the project. As Dennis Ward reports, the idea has a lot of support.
The Thunder Bay Indian Friendship Centre hopes to turn the Port Arthur Prosvita, which recently closed its doors on South High Street, into a multi-use facility, including a youth centre. Each year, the IFC serves about 2,000 young people, and in this new location, they feel that number would double. Executive Director Bernice Dubec says the centre would serve all of the city's youth.
This would be a great opportunity for building bridges between Aboriginal youth and non-Aboriginal youth. I think that's the way of our future, is for us to reach out and support each other, to learn from each other, to share each of our strengths and wisdom, and to move our city forward.
The 3-phased project would cost about $10 million. The Friendship Centre is looking for the city to kick in $1.5 million as soon as possible towards the purchase and renovation of the youth centre. They're also asking for another $1 million for Phase 2 in 2015 and $300,000 a year in operating costs. The proposal had widespread support from Council.
We spend $32 million on roads, $32 million on physical infrastructure, roads, bridges, etc. Physical infrastructure. We should be spending it on people infrastructure, more money, because that's where we get the biggest bang for our buck. And I think that by doing that and investing in our youth, it'll pay dividend down the road.
Combining a citywide youth center in conjunction with the Friendship Center, I think, is a very wise idea given the way this community is changing in its demographics. And certainly the Prosvita is an ideal location.
The IFC currently has a bid on the Prosvita that expires at the end of July. There was a request to have Council pull the money from reserves to get the deal done, but they opted to get a report back in October. Dubec says she isn't worried the deal will fall through. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
An overwhelming majority of people polled in a recent survey are satisfied with the quality of city services. The 2013 Citizen Satisfaction Study has been released, and the findings have the mayor feeling good about the job council is doing. Even people's attitudes towards crime in Thunder Bay are better than some anticipated. Jonathan Wilson has more.
The biannual citizen survey is painting a rather rosy picture of life in Thunder Bay. Of the 500 people who were polled, 92% rate the quality of life in Thunder Bay as very high, a 5% jump over the 2011 survey. The most important issue to those polled is transportation, replacing concerns about the economy, which used to dominate. And nearly 90% of people are satisfied with the quality of city services. Even a lot of the crime indicators were on the decline. Mayor Keith Hobbs himself thinks the findings show council is doing what the people want. The mayor says he's even happy with the high number of people who feel racism is a serious issue.
I know it's not a good thing that there's racism, but 82% are saying that it's an issue, and we've been addressing it. We've been moving forward on Aboriginal issues, and they've told us that they're facing racism in the city. So again, it reinforces that we're on the right path. We're working on the right things. It's something that we really do have to work hard on.
Council also threw its support behind the proposed move by the Thunder Bay Art Gallery to the waterfront. The idea garnered 54% support in the citizen survey. Councillor Rebecca Johnson worried where the $25 million project sat on the city's priority list, but Councillor Aldo Roberto says these investments are benefiting the city in a big way.
The economy is no longer the number one priority because the waterfront's being built, the courthouse has been going on, there's projects, there's hotels going, things are happening, and the economy is moving because of those initiatives. So I say, you know what, get the art gallery here, do what you can to get them here, and let's keep moving. But don't call them projects, call them investments.
In other waterfront-related news, Council directed city staff on Monday to look at options for a permanent memorial to honor waterfront planner Catherine Dugmore at Prince Arthur's Landing. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
The Ontario Fire Marshal is investigating a late-night blaze in Oliver Papoonge. The fire completely destroyed a house on Roslyn Road. The owner of this home is lucky to be alive after firefighters responded to a call of a home engulfed in flames just after 10 o'clock last night. A neighbor woke up the man inside the house, and he was already outside when fire crews arrived on scene. Flames could be seen shooting from the roof, and crews were fighting the flames until 4 in the morning. Firefighters were back to the scene today, putting out hot spots in the smoldering ruins. Oliver Papoonge Fire Chief Mike Horan says at this time the cause of the fire is still unknown.
The house is pretty well full loss. As you can see, the front wall and the side wall are standing. We managed to save the garage and all the contents in the garage, but the basement is burning still, and we can't get in there because the floor is not safe to walk on.
A backhoe was brought in to take down the walls and remove the floor before the fire in the basement was put out. An investigator from the Ontario Fire Marshal's office was also on scene today trying to determine the cause. At this time, there's no indication whether the fire is suspicious. The investigation is ongoing, and more details will be released as they become available. Well, it could be a good sign for workers and clients at Decore and Anishinaabeg Family Services. The national representative from the CEP union says that negotiations are continuing as of late this afternoon. It's been just over 2 weeks since strike action put 350 employees at Decore on the picket lines. The union has been without a contract for over a year now after several failed negotiations. They're alleging high workloads and other issues. The strike has forced Decore management to implement a contingency plan. Since then, only essential services have been maintained. The contract talks began at 9 o'clock this morning and continue throughout the day. We hope to have an update on the contract talks on our late edition. A rally was held in Kenora today to try and save the Treaty 3 Police Service. Members of the force were holding their annual general meeting. The Treaty 3 Police Chief has previously announced the service will be disbanded on August 19th due to funding issues. Union Rep Judith Monteith-Farrell says the service has been underfunded by both the province and the feds, and the union has been told to give up their union rights and accept pay cuts in order for the doors to be kept open. Around 40 people attended the rally. Allegations that a moose at Chippewa's wildlife exhibit is starving has set off a storm on social media. Hundreds have taken to Mayor Keith Hobbs' Facebook page in protest after a picture of the moose was posted. But city staff say the animal is happy and healthy, and they're inviting the public to come see it for themselves. Tara Allaire reports.
The wildlife exhibit at Chippewa Park features 12 different species and is home to roughly 20 animals. This picture, posted on Facebook of their moose appearing gaunt with its ribs showing, has spawned hundreds of accusations over the conditions at the park. The 5-year-old moose was rescued and raised from 2 days old after its mother was killed. Since then, attendants at the park say they've done their best to raise the animal as one of their own. Supervisor of Parks Gordon John says the moose is far from starving with its extensive daily diet.
5 gallons of dairy ration and then 2 gallons of moose maintenance. And half a dozen apples and a half a dozen carrots, and cleans the water dish and fills up the water for him, and then he's got hay all day long, as much as he wants. And then during the afternoon, the animal feeder will come around and give it fresh leaves and bark, which it loves to chew on the fresh bark.
John says the picture seems to have been taken from a bad angle. He says the moose is happy and healthy.
They got her in a very uncompromising position, laying down, trying to get away from the bugs, but this is time of year that it's hard on them, it's hot, it's wet, it's lots of bugs. And yeah, the pen isn't that big, he doesn't have that much room to maneuver, so we got to watch about overfeeding them. But he's definitely not underfed. He's, as you can see, he looks pretty good.
John says at this time of year they hear similar complaints about animals looking unhealthy. He says the pen has shade, water, and grass, and the moose has free rein to do as it wants for 10 months a year. Tara Allaire, TBT News.
The owner of the dog, which attacked an 11-year-old boy at Tarbert Park last year, has been committed to stand trial. 56-year-old Frank Vetroba appeared at the Ontario Court of Justice this week for a preliminary hearing. The incident left the boy with 65 stitches to his face. Vetroba had been charged with criminal negligence causing bodily harm. The judge determined there is enough evidence for the case to go to trial. Vetroba will appear at the Superior Court of Justice once a trial date has been set. Thunder Bay's downtown South Core is being spruced up this summer. Local artists are painting murals in the windows of several vacated buildings to improve the look of the area. A group of artists gathered today to launch the endeavor. The Fort William Business District was looking to do something that would liven up and enhance the vacant buildings around the South Core. The first of the murals is seen here at the old Farmers Market on Victoria Avenue with a historical Fort William theme. Artists from the Regional Multicultural Youth Centre have used their talents to create the first of many.
The idea is that at least if we have something on the windows, it looks like there is some life in the area. We do have a lot of new businesses moving into the area with the construction of the courthouse, but in the interim we just wanted to make it look more attractive to people who are in the area.
The BIA will continue to paint murals in hopes of having a large area covered by September. The George Jeffrey Children's Center and the local boating community gave special needs people an experience that won't soon be forgotten. Over 40 kids, youth, and adults got to try their hand at salmon fishing on Lake Superior today. The water was choppy and the fish weren't biting, but that didn't dampen anyone's spirits. Nate Jones has the story.
Although the sun was shining, it was a windy day out on the lake. Those who were out on the more than 25 boats had to cut the excursion short due to the conditions, but despite that, spirits were high and you could easily sum up the day in just a few words.
Awesome.
I think I had a good time.
Yeah, I made new friends.
This is the 10th year that the George Jeffrey Salmon Expedition has gone out on the lake to bring in some fish. Unfortunately, there were no fish to be caught, but that hasn't stopped people from coming back year after year.
Some of them are repeaters that come every year, which is great, and some are new, and it just gives them a chance to get out on the water, and they tell me they all enjoy it, so if they're happy, that's all that counts.
We don't do special events like this. We just don't have the resources and the time, so it's great when organizations can come up with an idea that we can attend. That's the best scenario for us.
You guys having fun or what?
Yeah! The day wouldn't have been possible without the generosity of the volunteers. Captains and crews on the boats donated their time and services, and some of the passengers even got to drive.
Well, I've been doing this for quite a few years now, and yeah, it's nice to see the smile on their face when you get out there, and yeah, just the boat ride. I mean, a lot of them never get a chance to go out on the water.
Although no one made a big catch, many of the participants made some new friends, and at the end of the day, everyone ate some salmon anyways. Nate Jones, TBT News.
You could certainly hear the wind howling in some of those shots in that report. Sarah, it was pretty gusty out there today. Is it going to continue as such, or are we going to get a break from that wind?
It was gusty today. No surprise that the fish weren't biting for those kids. However, the winds do seem to have died down a little bit, and looks like that will continue overnight. Today we made it up to a high of 22 degrees under partly cloudy skies. And I say breezy here, but for some it may have been blustery, depending on your definition. Those winds gusting up to 42 kilometers per hour coming in from the northwest. Currently across the region, 20 seems to be the number of choice. In Red Lake, Kenora, Fort Francis, Dryden, up in Sioux Lookout, all sitting at 20 degrees. Bit cooler down in Sault Ste. Marie, where they're currently at 16 degrees. If you are planning to head out to Chapels Park this evening for that game, Chill versus Minnesota United FC, that gets underway at 7:30. The temperature is expected to still be at about 22 degrees by that point, so you may want to bring a hat, few clouds, and the winds died down by that point to about 12 kilometers per hour. Overnight tonight, dipping down to a low of 8 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Maybe a good night to leave your windows open and air out your house. I know last night I tried to do that, but my doors were slamming shut because of all of the wind. The wind's coming in from the north, like I said, dying down only up to about 12 kilometers per hour. Into tomorrow, we see this nice weather still continues over our region into Wednesday, but a little bit later in the day, we see some shower activity to the northwest of us, and I'll have more on that later on in the newscast.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, one day after giving birth, the Duchess of Cambridge and the Duke have now shown the world their latest edition. We have that story for you coming up next. Well, we got our very first glimpse today of the royal baby in the arms of his parents, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Susan Ormiston was there.
Born to rule, a tiny prince who could be king in over a half-century. Will and Kate looked every bit the new, proud parents of a son who won't, in spite of good intentions, have anything resembling an ordinary life.
Very emotional. Yeah, it's very emotional. It's such a special time. I think any parent, I think, will probably sort of know what this feeling feels like. So very special.
Just consider his beginnings. Pomp fit for a prince. 71 horses pulling World War I carriages for a royal salute in Green Park. Tradition for a royal birth. Another at the Tower of London, 62 times firing across the Thames. As bells at Westminster Abbey pealed out a welcome, first-time grandparents Carol and Michael Middleton arrived to meet their grandson. In and out in an hour.
He's absolutely beautiful. They're both doing really well, and we're so thrilled.
It's expected they'll play a big role in the baby's upbringing. Granddad Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall were second to visit, Charles hinting to the crowd their wait would soon pay off.
You wait and see. You'll see in a minute.
No sign of the Queen at home in Buckingham Palace. But the changing of the guard today was especially orchestrated in a royal tribute. Canadians marked the occasion at Canada House, queuing to sign a baby book of congratulations.
For me to actually be in London when this little baby was born is, it means the world to me. I'll never forget it.
Even royal babies need car seats. William and Kate strapping in their son for the short ride home to Kensington Palace.
With this birth, the British monarchy has secured its succession for many years to come. 3 living heirs. The only thing we don't know yet is the name. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, London.
There was long-awaited testimony today from the owner of an Ontario shopping mall that partly collapsed last year, killing 2 people. Johanna Room-Leotis reports from Elliott Lake.
It's my birthday, so I feel very good.
It was his birthday, but hardly a celebration. Vilified, blamed for a tragic fiasco. Today, says Bob Nazarian, was about the truth coming out.
In one word, it was a white elephant.
A burdensome possession, doomed well before he bought it. Well before part of the Algo Centre's mall's roof collapsed last summer, killing 2 women. That's how the mall owner described his ill-fated investment at an inquiry into the tragedy.
The leak was my main concern, my nightmare right from the day that we have purchased.
Previous evidence found part of the mall's rooftop parking lot caved after decades of water damage, a function of poor design and poor waterproofing, and a lack of a permanent fix by 3 sets of owners. Nazarian testified he was misled by the seller, that he couldn't afford to do more than try to seal the leaks, while he tried to secure financing for more substantial repairs.
I have even lost quite a bit of money in order to keep this mall to the shape as possible.
But several times the Commission's lead lawyer challenged Nazarian about the millions he had from other investments.
You could have used this money to pay to fix the roof, right?
Nazarian kept insisting he had little cash flow. No money and no real sense of urgency either. Several engineering reports, one drawn up a month before the roof collapsed, noted the water damage, but deemed the roof structurally sound. Unbelievable to residents here, who dubbed the mall Algo Falls.
There's always water all over the place, buckets here and there, buckets there. You see ceiling tiles on the floor in the morning if you went in early.
As for Nazarian, he insisted repeatedly that he had done everything he could do to ward off a looming disaster that he had inherited. His testimony continues tomorrow. Johanna Room-Leotis, CBC News, Elliott Lake.
The town of High River, Alberta was hit hard during last month's floods, and today we're getting a better sense of how the town's heritage buildings stood up to the damage. As Nadia Stewart explains, some sites are bouncing back more quickly than others.
armed with his notepad and a camera. Fraser Shaw inspects the basement of yet another heritage building. This time it's the childhood home of former Prime Minister Joe Clark. And no surprise, the basement was a mess.
A lot of mud deposits, and in this case, the cleanup process involved removing the residual standing water, pumping out the mud, clearing out the mud, and essentially gutting the non-historic interior finishes to allow full drying of that area.
The original boiler, circa 1909, can't be salvaged, but the basement, for the most part, is in good shape, having been painstakingly dried out. Meanwhile, outside, there are more serious problems, and with some 50 more buildings to inspect, Shaw worries this could be just the tip of the iceberg.
We probably won't know the full extent of the impact for weeks or even months to come as the drying process progresses.
While heritage homeowners are assessing the damage, so too are the folks here at the Museum of the Highwood, and it's still too early to put a dollar value on just how much they've lost. The deck outside the station is a wreck. The basement is too, though the main floor fared better. The museum's off-site storage facility was also extensively damaged. Of the 10,000 artifacts stored there, they've salvaged what they could. Like so many others, the museum's curator is already looking at how this flood stacks up against the others.
We have a lot of flood photos from like 1923 and 1935, but nothing is ever compared to this. This is far worse than anything that's ever happened.
Far worse than anything these historic buildings have ever seen. Nadia Stewart, CBC News, High River.
Canadian Aaron Yoon has been released from a North African jail after serving 18 months on terrorism-related charges. Yoon, who is 24, is expected to be back in Canada within days. Adrian Arsenault has been following the developments on this story.
Well, we've learned that as of dawn this morning, Aaron Yoon, the young Canadian who's been in jail in Mauritania for about 18 months, has been released. He was turned over to Mauritanian intelligence. They are apparently having some discussions with him today. He was also handed a temporary passport for Canada, and the expectation is that very soon he will be deported from Mauritania and will likely end up back in Canada, probably in London, Ontario, where his family is, where he grew up, within the next 2 or 3 days. Now, if you recall, Aaron Yoon is one of 3 Canadian high school students from London, Ontario. 2 of his friends, Ali Medledge and Chris Katsarubis, went on to fight and die as militants in that horrific gas plant attack in Algeria in January. Aaron Yoon had nothing to do with that. He has been in jail in Mauritania for about a year before that terror attack. He has always maintained his innocence. He was picked up and charged and convicted on terrorism-related offenses, but he has always said that he was tortured into confessing and that the arrest was a mistake. There was a new trial about a month and a half ago. A judge determined that he'd already served enough time and so ordered his release. That's what we're looking at today. There have been many questions about what will happen to him once he comes back into Canada. But at this point, neither the RCMP nor the government are saying anything specific other than perhaps they might want to have a conversation with him. But once he's home and he's free. Adrian Arsenault, CBC News, Toronto.
2 California divers almost ended up as dessert for some hungry but well-intentioned whales. The whales are actually lunge feeding. That's when they force a massive school of fish toward the surface and then close their massive mouths around the prey.
You know, before we know it, here's all these bait fish just coming straight up in your face, and 2 humpback whales were right behind them, chasing them all the way to the surface.
The divers were never really in danger of being eaten, though. Humpbacks may be massive, but they like their snacks small and from the sea.
Good thing for them.
Yeah, no kidding. And before we go to break, let's take a look at today's market activity. In Toronto, the TSX lost 13 points to 12,745. The Dow closed at a new historic high, advancing 22 points to 15,567, and the Nasdaq was down nearly 24 points to 30.31. The Canadian dollar closed at 56/100 to $97.23 US. Fortunately, we don't have the closing numbers for gold. The crude was up 29 cents to $107.23 per barrel. It's going to be nice for the Thunder Bay Chill because they're going to have some strong competition tonight before the playoffs.
Yeah, should be a great game and a great playoff tune-up for the Thunder Bay Chill. They'll play a friendly against Minnesota United this evening, a pro team from the North American Soccer League, which is one step below the MLS. Kickoff is set for 7:30 at Chapels. Chill players and coaches know it will be a tough match. They also know it will help them better identify their own strengths and weaknesses as they prepare for the upcoming PDL playoffs.
Minnesota, they're a pro team. They're going to be coached well. They're going to be very fit, very strong, very fast. And but I think we have players that can keep up, and I think it's going to be a really good, basically warm-up leading into the playoffs, to get us going.
They'll probably bring a few players in to try some players, obviously, but the competition will be good for us. The level of competition gives us an opportunity to try some things out.
It's a good way to get going again for the playoffs and a midweek game. Where a lot of players will get to play good opposition, which will be really important going into the playoffs.
Meanwhile, the Chill handed out some hardware last night at their annual awards banquet. Pedro Adan is this year's team MVP. Unfortunately, he'll miss at least the first playoff game after receiving a red card Saturday. Other winners include Sergio Campano-Franco, who took home Rookie of the Year honors. This season's Defensive Player of the Year is Axel Sjoberg, and Sonny Omareji is the club's top scorer. He notched 8 goals and 5 assists in just 12 games. Well, Blue Jays catcher JP Arencibia is no longer on Twitter. The outspoken Arencibia tweeted he was leaving the social media website, then shut down his account. Arencibia has faced criticism this season from both fans and the media for his on-field struggles. He's certainly not the only Jay struggling. They kicked off a 3-game set with the Dodgers at the Rogers Center last night. Top 2 man on for A.J. Ellis. He takes Josh Johnson deep, a 2-run blast. It's 2-0 LA. Still in the inning, 2 on for Carl Crawford. A single up the gut, and the throw from Colby Rasmus is off the mark. That scores another to make it 3-0. Next batter, Yuseel Puig. He's got himself an RBI single. Mark Ellis counts, and Puig snaps an 0-for-12 streak in the process. The Dodgers knock Johnson around in the frame, lead 4-zip. Top of the third, the onslaught continues. A.J. Ellis with a single up the middle. Andre Ethier comes around to score 5-0 now. Next batter, Skip Shoemaker, the grounder, but watch the swing. He hits the glove of JP Arencibia. That's catcher interference. Arencibia unhappy about the call, but Shoemaker is awarded first base. That's the end of Johnson's night. He lasted just 2+ innings, gave up 5 earned runs on 7 hits. Top 5, 6-2 LA as Jays reliever Dustin McGowan fields the comeback, but that throw to second is nowhere even close. It was that kind of night for the Blue Jays. The errors, they just keep adding up. That was their 4th of the game, and they add to that total in the 6th as Ethier's ground ball goes under the glove of Adam Lind, who's charged with his 2nd error of the contest. Chalk up number 5 on the scoreboard for the night. How about this in the 8th inning? Puig with a highlight reel catch at the wall, robbing Arencibia of a base hit. The Dodgers crush the Blue Jays 14-5. Game 2 of the series goes this evening. Todd Redmond is scheduled to make just his 4th career start for Toronto. The Dodgers counter with veteran lefty Chris Capuano. Well, the Northwoods League All-Star Game goes tonight from Carson Park in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Reliever Zach Thiak is the lone Border Cats representative. A Toronto teenager is the talk of Major League Baseball. So talented, he's already on team wish lists. Here's his story.
Even at 17 years old, Gareth Morgan stands out on the baseball diamond. The outfielder's powerful bat and blazing speed have propelled him to a place no Canadian has been before, as high as 3rd amongst next year's prospects. But you won't catch this Toronto native bragging about his accomplishments.
It's pretty cool knowing that it's the top 10 or whatever, but at the same time I try not to think about it too much because then you get complacent, but I just try to work hard every day and get better and better.
Hard work he does. Knowing that pure foot speed is something major league teams look for, he's getting advice and training from one of the fastest Canadians ever.
He's going to be a great athlete. He's got the height, he's got the reach, he's got the focus, he's got the drive, he's got everything that he needs to do to be a great athlete.
Gareth didn't always dream of the big leagues. Like most Canadian kids, he played hockey, excelled at soccer too, but ultimately, hardball won him over.
I just feel like baseball comes easy to me. With other sports, it doesn't really work out the way it should be, but with baseball, it just kind of clicks.
Good choice. As a 14-year-old, Gareth became the youngest ever to make Canada's junior national team, and next month he'll be the first from this country to play in the most prestigious U.S. high school all-star game. Milestones that warm his mom's heart.
I think that's my son, and you know, it's just stop it.
Does it just, I mean, are you proud?
Yeah, very much so.
Once drafted, Gareth will have a decision to make: turn pro right away or go to college on a scholarship. Not an easy choice for a teenager whose mom is a teacher.
Yeah, it's pretty intimidating, I could say, but I'm excited to get on with my life and see where that takes me.
A guy who knows a little something about such journeys is the Blue Jays' Brett Laurie, drafted 16th overall. And if Gareth is picked higher than that?
Bugged me a little bit, but nah, it's all good. I mean, I wish him nothing but the best, and he's a good kid, and he's got a long road ahead of him, and I wish him nothing but success.
Carly Agro, CBC News, Toronto.
Jaromir Jagr has a new team. The New Jersey Devils signed the veteran forward to make up for some of the scoring lost by the recent retirement of Ilya Kovalchuk. The 41-year-old Jagr split last season between the Dallas Stars and the Boston Bruins. Well, to the links, where the PGA Tour is set to make its annual Canadian stop. The RBC Canadian Open goes this weekend at Glen Abbey. Lots of history with this tournament at the course. This year's event features 12 of the top 50 golfers in the world, making it the best field in recent memory. Graham Dillette and Mike Weir will both play, with a shot to become the first Canadian to win the tournament since Pat Fletcher did it way back in 1954.
This country's national championship is steeped in tradition. Over a century old, the champions list reads like a who's who of the game of golf.
Sam Snead, Byron Nelson, Tiger Woods. It's an endless list of some of the greatest players of all time that have won the Canadian Open, and if they haven't won it, they've come close.
Most notably, the Golden Bear. Jack Nicklaus finished runner-up 4 times at the Canadian Open, but his legacy goes far beyond great finishes. This year, the tournament has returned to Glen Abbey, a course that Nicklaus designed.
I mean, the ball, the technology of the clubs have changed how players can play it and what they're hitting onto it. But I think it's a great spectator golf course first and foremost, which is what he was asked to build.
Of all the memorable shots fired at the Abbey, none are more revered than the one made by a young Tiger Woods in 2000. His 6-iron from the fairway bunker on 18, carrying 216 yards and clinching the tournament win.
The bunker shot for me from Tiger Woods is definitely, I think, his #1 shot from his golf career.
Good, but you know what? I keep telling him, I didn't hit the green. I hit it over the green. So it wasn't really that good.
An hour and a half ago. The biggest heartbreak at Glen Abbey came just 4 years later. Trying to become the first Canadian golfer since Pat Fletcher in 1954 to win the national title, Mike Weir came agonizingly close to breaking the spell, only to lose on a 3rd playoff hole to Vijay Singh.
I was standing on the 18th green and in the scoring area, and when that ball went in the water, I don't think I've heard, 10,000 fans just die.
The last golfer to win the Canadian Open here at the Abbey was Nathan Green in 2009. His hometown, Toronto, as in Toronto, New South Wales, Australia. Population, just over 5,000. In Oakville, Rob Leth, Global News.
And rookie Curtis Steele will start at tailback next week, and the Toronto Argonauts host the BC Lions. Starter Chad Cackert is out 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury he suffered in last week's win over Winnipeg.
All right, well, thanks, Ryan. Tonight, if you're a fan of the show Elementary, but you haven't had a chance to watch all of the episodes, one of them is repeating tonight on Global Thunder Bay. With more, here's Teletalk.
Tonight on Global Thunder Bay, starting at 8, it's NCIS. And a lieutenant who just returned home is found brutally murdered. Then on NCIS Los Angeles, an ex-CIA agent is killed by a bomb in his favorite lighter. And at 10 on Elementary, Holmes tries to prove that a recent plane crash was not an accident. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay at 7:30, grab a cuppa with the gang from Coronation Street. Then at 8, Rick explores the newest recreation sport, zorbing, on the Rick Mercer Report. At 8:30 on 22 Minutes, the Real Housewives of town compete to welcome a foreigner. And at 9, the airline falls apart when Blake's friend joins the crew on Arctic Air. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Well, we mentioned the wind earlier, but despite the wind, it was actually quite a nice day, Sarah. Are we going to see warm temperatures continue for the rest of the week?
It was a pretty warm day despite those blustery temperatures. We made it up to 22 degrees. I wouldn't say hot temperatures for the rest of the week, but possibly some more milder temperatures to be expected. Today, like I said, 22 degrees under partly cloudy skies and quite breezy with those winds gusting up to about 42 kilometers per hour. At this hour in Vancouver, it was a very sunny day. They're now sitting at 22 degrees, but not much cloud cover in Vancouver. Much of the same up in Prince George. In Alberta, severe thunderstorm watch for the city of Calgary and also alerts for High River and Canmore. Those were the areas that were affected by severe flooding, so something that I'm sure they're keeping a close eye on. 22 degrees right now in Edmonton. As we look into the prairies at this hour, Regina currently sitting at 21 degrees. Their high today was 22, so just below the high. Saskatoon is at 22 degrees right now. Winnipeg slightly below seasonal and cloudy skies sitting at 21 degrees. Quite humid today in southern Ontario, and as a result, some thunderstorm watches and warnings in effect for most areas of southern Ontario. Toronto feels much warmer than 22 with that humidex. Ottawa and Montreal also very humid, cloudy skies at the moment. Thunderstorm watches and warnings in effect also for some areas around Quebec City. Wet day today in the Maritimes. Halifax currently sitting at 20 degrees under cloudy skies, but as we look into Fredericton, 17. Wet weather there, definitely umbrella weather in Charlottetown, and only 14 degrees. Windy today in Newfoundland. St. John's is sitting at 20 degrees. Some wind warnings actually in effect for some areas of Newfoundland today. Now we can see it was quite pleasant in our area today. However, this precipitation and low pressure system moving our way can bring some showers into tomorrow and even a bit later on in the week into Thursday. Overnight tonight across the region, low teens, even dipping down to as low as 7 degrees in Sioux Lookout, 8 in Atikokan, 7 in Marathon as well, and dipping down to about 10 degrees in Sault Ste. Marie. Tomorrow, those temperatures below seasonal, pretty much straight across the board, only getting up to about 18 degrees in Big Trout Lake, 24 among the warmest in Marathon expected for tomorrow. Thunder Bay at this hour, we are currently sitting at 22 degrees, which is our high for today. Partly cloudy skies and windy still at times, with those winds still gusting, but they have been dying down, not quite as blustery as they were earlier on in the day. Thunder Bay tonight, temperatures dipping down to a low of 8 degrees under mostly cloudy skies, winds from the north dying down overnight. To start your day tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, about 13 degrees, but by the afternoon, that's where we can expect to see some scattered showers, 21 degrees by noon, and the chance of showers increasing by about 4 o'clock. Later on in the week, into Thursday, we see that risk of thunderstorms is possible and showers, about 21 degrees. On Friday, mostly cloudy with rain still in the forecast, 19 degrees. The good news is the precipitation, that umbrella weather should be gone for the weekend by Saturday and Sunday. Cloud cover still a little bit on Saturday, but mostly sunny on Sunday with a high of 22. And that's your weather forecast.
It's time to visit the Thunder Bay and District Humane Society shelter. And tonight, Fiona Gardner introduces us to a 6-year-old Shih Tzu named Cinnamon.
Hi, this week's Humane Society Pet of the Week is a wee little one named Cinnamon. Cinnamon is a Shih Tzu Lhasa Apso mix, and she's 6 years old, and she was brought into the Humane Society by her owner. She is a little shy at first, but very sweet and gets along with everybody. She'd probably do better in a home with adult children or a quiet older couple. If you are ready for a mature young lady, come meet Cinnamon today.
Your Pet of the Week has been brought to you by Thunder Pet. Expert advice and high-quality pet food within your budget.
Well, despite the wind today, it was a pretty good day to go for a swim. Don't know if you'd be up to swim the length of Lake Ontario, though.
Probably not.
5 women are taking that challenge on, and we'll show you after the break. 5 women took the plunge today and are hoping to make history. They've set off to do the first ever relay swim across Lake Ontario. The women started in Kingston, Ontario this morning, taking turns swimming 2 hours each. The 300-kilometer journey is expected to take 5 days and will finish off in Burlington. After hours of practice, the girls are hoping to do something that's never been done before. And it's all in an effort to raise money for an international women's charity. We wish them well.
Yeah, good for them. I don't think I could. I
No
know I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. I don't know why I say I think I couldn't do it.
You think you could, if you really put your mind.
No, I know I can.
Okay, all right. There goes the positivity. We're going to recap our top story. Well, the Trans-Canada Highway near Red Rock is closed at this hour following a major accident. It happened around 3:30 this afternoon. OPP say it involved a transport, 2 pickups, and possibly some cyclists. We'll have more on that for you on the late edition tonight.
And head on out to Chapels Park tonight. You can see the Chill take on Minnesota United FC, a pro team, so it should be a tough matchup, but a great way for them to gear up for the PDL playoffs.
And temperatures expected to still be quite warm for that game. High today, 22 degrees. Winds dying down overnight tonight and chance of showers tomorrow.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a good night.